Hi everyone, welcome to Live with Sirus Migration. This is the live show that we run fortnightly on a Thursday to give you the latest updates of the Australian immigration as well as answer any questions that you have related to Australian immigration. My name is Ashani Yapa. I'm a registered migration agent from Sirus Migration. Our head office is based in Brisbane. We have offices all around the world as well. So this is your time to start typing your questions in Facebook or YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, this is also a really good time to subscribe because we do come to you with the latest updates of Australian immigration. So let me start the show today with some updates that we received yesterday. From 1st of July 2024, which is less than 1 month away, people who are coming to Australia on subclass 600 visitor visa, they are no longer going to be allowed to lodge a student visa on shore. So we kind of knew that this was coming into effect, but it is here officially this rule where you cannot apply for student visas on shore. And the second update is people who are on subclass 485, which is the graduate visa that you get to apply after you are on a student visa and meet certain requirements. Now people who are on a subclass 485 visa or the graduate visa, they are also not allowed to lodge a student visa from 1st of July 2024. So they have done this to stop visa hopping and stop the temporary permanent visa holders, which means you're on a temporary visa hopping from one visa to the other for a very long time. Government is taking these measures to make sure that people aren't doing that. They're finding their permanent residency pathway in the quickest possible way, which can contribute to the country and the economy. So we are now going to start our show by answering some questions that we have received throughout the week from our viewers in Facebook as well as YouTube. Now we're going to display the questions and I'm going to answer these questions. So if you're the one who asked the question or if this is related to you, this is my answer. But if you have any doubts about anything, this is your time to type in your questions. What's the first question, Mario? Right, the question one is, I'm currently on a temporary 485 visa and looking for PR pathway options. I was going to enroll in Diploma of Nursing, but because of the new rule that came out today, I can no longer hop into a student visa. So my answer to this is, if you wait until 1st of July to lodge this student visa, as it said, you won't be able to do that. You will not be able to go back to a student visa. I would also like to highlight this and talk about this a little bit more because I think this is going to be a good waking up point for a lot of 485 visa holders in Australia who are on a temporary graduate visa. People do get the temporary graduate visa for 3 to 4 years or even 2 years, 1.5 years, depending on what they study. And at the end of this time, they either decide to upskill themselves or they were not ready for permanent residency. They didn't do their, they didn't work on completing their requirements for their permanent residency for whichever the reason. So now these people cannot go back onto a student visa. Most of will have to look for different options. We will talk about these options a little later as well. There is light at the end of the tunnel. It's not the end of the road. As long as you work proactively trying to find employment in your field, I think you will still be good. But what I want to now tell the people who are in Australia on international students, subclass 500 visas and people who are on 485 visas, it is a really good time to start planning your permanent residency pathway. As you know, you cannot get a subclass 485 visa again and you cannot get a student visa again. And also the government is going to be shortening the duration of most of the subclass 485 or the temporary graduate visas. They're going to be most of these visas are going to be only 2 years, if not 1.5 years. So you only have that short time to prepare and lodge your skilled migration or employer nominated visa and get an invitation to lodge the skilled migration visa as well. So that's a very short amount of time. So you need to prepare from day one. From the time you decide which course you're going to study, that should have a good pathway to find employment. I think this is my advice. If you want to stay in Australia, get your permanent residency, going for employer nominated visa or finding an employer in your occupation is the key. All indications lead us that way, and all government benefits and the number of visas indicate to us that government really likes this idea of people going on employer nominated visas rather than skilled migration. What's the next question? Question 2, I have a question regarding occupations. Which occupation is the most demand in Australia? I don't think there is a direct answer to this question. What I tell my clients is always, if you have a passion, follow it, and then if you're good at it, I'm sure you will be able to find employment here and go for your skilled migration through that. But if you look at sectors, I believe Australia has highlighted 10 sectors under global talent, which I believe are the sectors that they will be focusing on, which includes information technology, engineering, space technology, health sector big time, nurses, aged care workers, and all health professionals, doctors. So these are the sectors that I think that's going to do great in the upcoming years in Australia. Okay, what's the next question? Question 3, with so many changes being announced lately, is skilled migration or employer sponsor looking better for 485 visa holders? As I said earlier, we can see the skilled migration numbers have gone down for subclass 189, which is the independent skilled migration, subclass 190, which is state nominated visa, and subclass 491, which is the regional state nominated visa. All of these visas, the numbers have gone down. Whereas subclass 482, which is the employer nominated visa, subclass 494, subclass 186, all these employer nominated visa subclasses, the places have gone up. So I think that is a good indication. Plus, for subclass 482, the work visa, the requirement right now is the work experience requirement. It's 2 years. So you need to have 2 years full-time equivalent work experience if you want to get an employer sponsored visa. This requirement is going down from 2 years to 1 year in November this year. That is again a really good indication to us, plus the number of places that government is leaning towards employers rather than state nominated visa. So to answer this question, I think the best thing for any international student or people on subclass 485, follow your passion and study what you want to study, but do find employment. Some of our students, we know that they kind of get lost in the process doing part-time jobs and trying to make some money and going to uni. They lose track in their path to permanent residency, and they do not look for jobs in their field, or they struggle to find jobs in their field once they finish their studies. So my recommendation is, if you're looking for permanent residency in Australia, you have to start looking for employment. Whether to start with, if it's voluntary employment, somehow you should get into your field. That way, it's the hardest is to get your first work experience. Once you have your first Australian work experience, I believe it's not going to be that difficult to move on from there. So that is what people's first aim should be. Focus on your studies and find employment, and then go through employer nominated pathways to permanent residency. Right, next question. Hi, I'm 34 years old. Is there any chance for me to apply for student visa? That's a really good question. As you probably already know, from 1st of July 2024, people who are over 35 can only be eligible for a subclass 485 or a graduate visa if they're studying Masters by Research or PhD. So what is the conclusion with this? I think most universities, they will be hesitant to give you offer letters if you're in that border 34 reaching 35 for bachelor's or masters. But if you already have a master's, or if you're eligible for a master's by research, I don't think this will be an issue. It really depends on if we can get an offer letter and from which university we can get an offer letter. There is no such legislative instrument or legislation saying that, if you're this old, you cannot apply for a student visa. It really depends on how good your migration agent or education consultant put forward your case to demonstrate that you're a genuine temporary student or genuine temporary entrant into Australia. As long as you can prove that, you should be good. Next question, Mario. Actually, before we move on to the next question, I can see there is a question from Kalpani. I'm going to answer that question. Hi, good morning, Ms. Ashani. I'm a Sri Lankan government nurse with 9 years experience. I have only nursing diploma. I want to get 482 visa as a nursing assistant, support worker or caregiver. How can I find sponsors? That is again a really good question. As you know, right now you can only be eligible under the Australian government labour agreement stream for nurses or nursing assistants through aged care facilities, and it is out there. You can find out which aged care centres have signed this MOU and are party to this labour agreement. Only if you find employment from one of these aged care facilities and you get sponsored for subclass 482, then only you can go with this visa category. But keep your eyes open. We know in November or towards the end of this year, we know that there's going to be a new visa, or the subclass 482 visa is going to change, and it's going to be called skill in demand visa, and it's going to break into 3 categories. And we believe that the last category, the essential skills, will have this occupation, the nursing assistants and aged care workers, included in it. That way, hopefully most aged care facilities will be able to offer you the 482, not just the ones who signed the MOU. So this will be a really good opportunity. Keep your eyes open. If that happens, then the opportunities will open up, and we'll surely know this information and we'll be in touch to let you know. I've got another question from Harsh. My son had a visa for PR is granted, but still final document not come yet. How much time it take in Victoria? It's 190 visa. Bridging visa is, right. So your son has applied for subclass 190 in Victoria. He's waiting for the visa grant. It is quite normal for it to take long, and especially closer to this June, maybe they've run out of quota. We haven't seen too many visa grants, but depending on when he lodged, it takes about 9 months to a year, or just little past 1 year for the notice to come. So it is fine as long as he's on bridging visa. He can work full time, he can travel. I don't think there's any issues. So, rest assured, I'm sure it's on the way. Prabhat is saying one of the best agents in Australia. Thank you, Prabhat. We try hard. Anushka is saying, may I know how long would it take for the visa process for subclass 482? That's again a very good question. Subclass 482, it is quite fast compared to most of the visas, and I know the government is working hard to make it even faster, especially with the new system coming into place. Right now, it takes about, if I think of my last grant, it took about 2 months from start to the end. So from labor market testing to a grant. So we are looking at about 1 to 2 months, which is really fast. Nipun is asking, hi, can the dependent get student visa once 485 visa finishes under the new changes? They are not talking about dependents. I believe the dependent will be able to get a student visa. Yeah, so let's move on to the next question. Is IELTS compulsory for the masters in Australia even though the UK degree is completed? Right, it really depends on the level that you fall under, I believe, for student visas, whether you need English or not. There's two criteria, the two places you need to look at. One is the university. Sometimes the university requests it. If the university doesn't request it, then obviously you don't need for English to get an offer letter and to get a COE. But then we need to look at the visa application. Visa applications, how it goes normally is the level that you fall under. So if you fall under level 1, 2, then you don't need English. But if you fall under level 3, then you do need English. But to prove that you're a genuine student, we always recommend people to sit for IELTS or PTE and achieve the marks that they want to see. So that again is an indication that you are into your studies and you are doing what it takes to get the admission as well as get into Australia. So we always recommend our students, if it is a possibility, do sit for an English test and show the results that they want. Let's move on to the next question. I have a PhD in the medical tech field with few publications. Would you consider this enough for a global talent visa in Australia? Right, then again, global talent visa, very interesting. We have had really good success with global talent, especially for medical field. The answer to this question is I need to look at the profile and see what you can bring to Australia. So GTI has different criteria. You either need to have a PhD recently completed, or you need to earn high income threshold, or you need to prove that you have the ability to attract high income. So that's a very important thing again to remember for GTI applicants. You may not be earning this high income right now because some third world countries, your salary, even if you get the highest salary, it will not be equivalent to the Australian high income threshold, which is right now about 170,000. So what you need to do in this case, you need to prove that you have the ability to earn this high income by getting an offer letter from an Australian employer, or by doing some research on and showing that this is the kind of jobs that you'll be eligible for and this is the pay that's available for these jobs. So if you do that, plus if you can prove what you have done your research, or what you can bring to Australia is significant, then you should be able to apply for global talent visa. But keep in mind though, this global talent visa is also changing towards the end of this year. So if you believe that you qualify under the current system, we highly recommend that you lodge an expression of interest to see. And another really good thing is with GTI that has changed recently, now they get back to you with your EOI within 3 months of lodging. It used to take about a year and a half sometimes. Now the time has really shortened. You get a results within 3 months to say that whether you're successful or that you're not successful. If you're not successful, they will also go to the lens to tell you that why you are not successful. So anyone who's in global talent sector, if you believe that you're eligible, I highly recommend that lodge an expression of interest. Right, let's move on to the next question. Hi, I'm from New Zealand on 444 visa. Can I apply for a partner visa for my husband overseas? Good question, and we do get a lot of New Zealanders inquiring these days. If you're a New Zealand citizen, you can come to Australia at the airport. You get these special visas called 444 or 444, and you can live in Australia for as long as you like. There is nothing stopping you from doing that. And now they have made it even better for New Zealand citizens who's been living in Australia for the last 4 years. It is considered as them being permanent residents, so you are eligible to apply for citizenship. So when it comes to partner visa, you have to be either an eligible New Zealand citizen or Australian citizen or Australian permanent resident. So if you're not an eligible New Zealand citizen, then the visa you have to go for is called 461. It's New Zealand Family Relationship Visa. This is again a 5-year visa. It's not permanent residency, but if the New Zealand citizen becomes an Australian citizen or an Australian permanent resident, then they can apply for partner visa for their family. Let's move on to the next question. Hi, I'm doing my master's currently. Can I transfer to a Master of Research? That is again a question that we get asked a lot. I think we know the reasoning behind, because there are people who are over 35 studying masters who knows that they are not going to unfortunately get the subclass 485 or the temporary graduate visa. Answer to this question is, masters by research, you still have to go ahead and you have to find a lecturer or the tutor who can, and you have to do your thesis and you have to get the approval. So like PhD, you have to go through that process. But apart from that process, to be eligible for masters by research, what they look at from your side is the English, and also some universities do accept people who has done a 4-year bachelor's, which is bachelor's honors, or if you have studied a master's by coursework, then again you can be eligible for masters by research. But if you have just done a 3-year bachelor's degree and you're just started your masters by coursework, you unfortunately will not be able to transfer in between from a master's to a masters by research, just based on the fact that you're studying a master's. So again, go and see an education consultant, find out what each different university accepts, and see what is your possibility to transfer to a masters by research. Right, what's the next question? Okay, we are 4 siblings, 2 onshore, 1 with PR and the other still processing for PR in a partner visa pathway. The other 2 siblings are overseas. Can we bring our parents on a parent visa to Australia? That's again a very common question people ask about parent visas. I'll just take this time to answer these questions and talk about parents visas a little bit. To answer this question, yes, you can bring your parents to Australia right now, but not on any permanent visa. If you want to apply for permanent parent visa, then you have to meet the balance of family test, which is at least half of the siblings has to be Australian permanent residents. So for you to bring parents over on a permanent visa, the second sibling who's in Australia needs to become a permanent resident. Then you will be eligible to bring the parents over on a permanent basis visa. But right now you can bring parents to Australia either on a visitor visa or subclass 870 temporary parent visa. It's a bit tricky with subclass 870 visa, because once you apply for subclass 870 visa, while you're holding that visa until it expires, you cannot apply for a permanent visa. Then again, you need to look at, depending on your situation, depending on when the parent wants to come to Australia, how much money do you guys have to spend on this, because there are different parent visa pathways that can cost you up to $50,000 for a parent, but then that gives you permanent residency. Then again, it takes about 12 years for the grant right now. So you have to consider all that and find out how old the parents are and when do they want to come and start living in Australia. Based on all that, we can advise, what's the best pathway to bring your parents to Australia to live permanently or temporary. And again, you have to keep in mind, if you're on 870 visa, if you applied for it, then you cannot apply for any of the permanent parent visas until this visa expires. And there's again a bit of a catch with this 870 visa. If you're onshore holding a visitor visa or some other visa, you have to get special permission to apply for the 870 visa onshore. If it doesn't work out, then the parent has to be outside of the country to apply for the 870 visa. And also there is a condition in this visa: if you're in Australia with the 870 visa, at the end of the expiry you must leave the country and stay outside if you want to apply for a different visa. And then again, even if you do that with 870 visa, the maximum duration where you can stay in Australia, it's 10 years. So you have to keep all of that in mind and plan a proper pathway if you want to bring your parents to Australia. I've got a question from Kaviraj. Hi, I'm from Sri Lanka, finished bachelor degree in agriculture. Now I am working as a research assistant in agriculture field. Can I get a 491 visa? What other with dependents? Okay, I believe he wants to know what are the visas. Yes, so if you are with skilled migration, what you need to look at, what is the occupation and how can you get a skills assessment. So as long as you have a qualification and work experience for a certain occupation, for example, research assistant, every occupation has a criteria how to get a skill assessment. As long as you can get a skills assessment and that occupation is in the demand list, yes, you can get a skills assessment, do your English, make sure you meet the points in the point system, and lodge an expression of interest for subclass 491 visa. And once you get an invitation, then you can lodge your visa application. And they're asking about dependents. So for subclass 491 visa, yes, you can include your dependents. They just have to be members of your family unit. As long as they are, then at the same time when you lodge your visa application, you can include your dependents into your visa. So finally, I would also like to show you, it is quite related to this last question as well, the Grattan report that everybody's talking about, that shows the potential points system that could be implemented closer to the end of this financial year. As you can see, not like the current system, with this system it is out of 500 points, and it is said that if you can reach to 400 points, then an invitation is guaranteed. And again, a big difference I see is that there are no age brackets. Each year that you're passing, you're going to be losing points. So they are really looking at getting younger people, I guess, 30-year-olds with good experience and a qualification, and single sometimes. I'm no comments too much for there, but it all adds up. We are all seeing where this is going. I believe we are looking. If you're a talented professional, then you need to be working, or you need to have an Australian employer. I think this is where it's leading. Unless you are overseas, you're earning high income threshold or close to it, and you're young at the peak of your career, 400 points that's the individual ones we calculated and compared with our current clients. So they want the best of the best. I'm going to answer the last question because our time is running out. Rasanja saying, I have lodged EOI under ANSCO 225113 2 months back. What would be your opinion on being in the pool for some time? Sorry, on top of my head, I don't know what that ANSCO occupation is. If you could please type the occupation, that'll really help. But also we have some really good news. There are so many 189 invitations are coming for painters. We are seeing for lawyers, for engineers. Many 189 invitations are coming today. So if you guys have lodged an invitation, EOI for 189, check your emails. It's worth checking your emails to make sure that you've got your 189. Right, your occupation is marketing specialist. Great. So marketing specialist, wonder how many points. Marketing specialist, probably looking at quite good number of points, and 75 points. Which state? And also, Rasanja, and to you and to other people, right now all the states are closed for their nominations. You cannot lodge EOIs anymore for this financial year, but it's only 2 weeks away until the next financial year is here. And the states will open. Once they open, we will know their criteria state by state. Not all states open at the same time. Mostly, as each state's open, we will come back to you, tell you their criteria, and if you're eligible, it's best to lodge your expression of interest again. Hopefully, you can get an EOI before the new systems kick in. So marketing specialist, 75 points. It really depends on which state and which subclass you lodge the EOI. Again, whichever the state it is, Rasanja, I believe when the states open again, you will have to go and re-lodge your expression of interest. Then again, if you have an employer, if you're in Australia, talk to your employer and see marketing specialist. It's in the short-term skill occupation list. Still, they can nominate you for subclass 482, which has a guaranteed PR pathway in 2 years' time. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening in. Keep your eyes open and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will be coming to you with the latest as the latest updates coming in, which we are hoping this is going to happen every week now for the next few months. Stay safe. We'll see you again in 2 weeks' time.